Hi, and welcome back to Filthy Talk. I'm Trevor Gemma, your host, and this is definitely a streak.
No, now it's a streak.
You're working on a streak now.
Yeah, now I'm going. I'm staying. I'm not leaving anymore.
So Chris,
but I won't be here next week.
Here.
No.
Oh, you're gone? That's fair. And for the first time on this side of the desk over there, not fact-checking, but in the panel we have Ryan Whyte.
Hello.
And another first, we have a special guest joining us.
We do.
Someone from outside the company, not with a filthy lot, but peripherally involved. Jonathan Tippett, the founder, CEO, and chief test pilot for Furrion Exo-Bionics, which may sound like, what? What? I'm sorry, what? And we'll get into that because, John, you have made something very cool.
John does crazy shit. That's what he does. John builds insane things, and it's so cool. I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to talk about this.
And since Ryan is here, replacing him in his seat is again Roz Young. Thank you, Roz, as fact checker and chat liaison.
Thanks, Roz.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roz. I feel like I'm going to need you with these clowns around.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. We just bullshit a lot, so
Yeah.
totally.
John gets it already.
So I don't know if you've seen the show, but we do have a tradition here, and before we get into what we're going to talk about, we talk about what we're drinking. So we'll start down with you. What's in the glass?
This is a lemonade. I might need some correction.
It's the pink lemonade sour.
Pink lemonade sour. My favorite kind of beer is a sour, and I came in and
Oh, perfect.
what beer would you like? I'm like, my favorite's a sour. They're like, whoosh. And yeah, my favorite's still a sour.
Nice.
Nice, good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Lively, summery.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, soon we're going to be changing up the kegs around here, so there will be some new things coming shortly. But I, myself, today went with the Saison, the La Maison Saison.
Oh.
I'm enjoying it. I wanted something a little less sweet, which is why I went for the Saison.
Yeah.
Maison.
The thing I'm
Saison.
drinking. That's why I went
All
for the thing
works.
I'm drinking. That's actually the bottom of that keg. It's pretty
Is
light.
it?
Yeah, I was in there testing it.
Okay,
And,
wow.
yeah, so cherish it.
It's gonna be gone soon,
Yeah.
and then we'll move on to the next thing, I guess. But that's the way that goes. But I'm enjoying it.
Well, you know
Nice.
what they say, saisons change.
Oh.
Terrible.
You need to meet Marshall. He's the king of the puns around here. Although maybe you can steal the crown. I'm also drinking, again, the pink lemonade sour. Where is beer?
Beer brewing.
Beer brewing. Yeah, North Van, beer brewing. It's a great sour. It's I keep going back to it because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't like beer, so I'm drinking a White Claw. I probably shouldn't work for a filthy lot.
We're gonna get you a cider on tap.
I
so
might
that
be
you can
like
have
the
it.
only
That's-
man in Canada that doesn't like both beer and coffee. So
There you go.
Do
what
you-
is life even?
Do you like
run
cider?
on?
I like cider. Yeah, I like all
okay.
other alcoholic beverages other than.
You don't
beer.
drink coffee?
I don't drink coffee and I don't drink beer.
Do you drink tea?
I love tea.
Oh,
You're that energetic without coffee?
I don't
Yeah.
know, man.
Damn.
all the
I do
crank.
enjoy the yerba mate. Shout out to Guyaki.
Yeah.
It's actually slight aside here, but Guyaki is fucking brilliant in their marketing because the only reason that I know of Guyaki is because they started giving Prosthesis, John and the Eat Art crew,
Yeah.
flats and flats and flats of Guyaki. And so years ago when I was like hanging
Bob
out with
Macaulay.
John and helping
go.
him out with
Dude.
stuff, there'd always be Guyaki there. And so I'd just be like hanging out, I'd drink a Guyaki, be like, I like this stuff.
Oh.
Next time I needed some energy, I was like, what do I get? And it was like a Red Bull? No, I'm not gonna get that.
They're great.
And then I'd see a Guyaki
How,
and be like,
how long have you guys been getting Guyaki?
Oh boy, I mean, I think we really started hitting it hard in about 2010 when we started
wow.
building the machine prototype.
that
way.
statement.
Yeah.
Sweet. Hitting it hard.
That's
And
actually.
then like they
Rob
sponsored
rolled
Base
in with
Coast.
flats.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very fair representation. I think it appeared here and disappeared here in the first day that it arrived.
Yeah. No, that's not true. When it first got here,
Yeah.
not everyone knew about it.
No.
Like people here were just like, what is this? And then
the yellow
they
can.
tried it, and then it would be, it gets here, and the fridge is empty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My
But
favorite was
recently
Alen. He was
it's
not
hanging around
drinking
a little
at the
bit
time.
longer. The fridge has been stocked for longer now for some reason.
Well, you know the
Yeah.
founder, David Carr, lives on Salt Spring Island.
Yeah.
He's a lovely dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
And some of our friends know him, and so they're just all
I
family.
randomly met
Oh.
him on the beach in LA last November when I was down there for that conference.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just like walking along and I saw people with cans of Guyaki coming in the opposite direction. I was like, they're sampling Guyaki somewhere and they're not the beach. So like I'm sprinting down the beach, like looking around, and I finally ran into the guys and I asked him actually if he knew you. And I ended up sitting there on the beach in LA chatting with this dude from Salt Spring who knew John. It was
Wild.
such a weird small world.
Nice.
thing.
Yeah.
I came across it
Very
at
nice.
Base Coast 7 years ago or so, and just, I can't put the stuff down.
So yeah, Guayaki, if you're listening, sponsor us.
Yeah, totally.
We'll definitely take some free yerba mate. That I would be okay with that.
For
We
sure.
can do that. Charlie lights are.
Roz, what about you? What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking the Maison Saison again because
nice.
it is delicious, and I am going to cling to summer with my very last death grip.
It's okay. All the smoke is going to hold it here for us.
Yeah, just box it in.
100%. Yeah. It's not going
great.
anywhere.
Okay, so Jonathan Tippett, Prosthesis.
Yes, sir.
This is a project of yours that we all know about.
I'm very excited to talk
But-
about this.
The people at home may not, although I know I've seen a ton of it even before we started getting involved with you and Chris was learning how to pilot it.
Yeah.
It's been in my feed a lot.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So do you want to tell the folks at home exactly what this is?
Oh boy, where to start? Yeah, well, I mean, Prosthesis is the world's first purpose-built sports mech. It was a project that
Such a
we
crazy sentence.
I conceived of at Burning Man in like 2003. When the confluence of all of my life's experiences, mountain biking, snowboarding, motorcycle riding, martial arts, mixed in the crucible of Burning Man and seeing all of this inspirational artwork, this idea of like a giant, pilotable, exoskeletally controlled, high-performance all-terrain mech suit kind of sprung to mind. And I did the first drawing of it in 2006.
Wow.
And fast forward to 2017 when we actually built the machine. We earned the title of the world's largest four-legged exoskeleton.
Oh, sick.
It's been a heck of a journey.
Congrats on that.
Yeah.
How big is the thing?
Give us some specs, John.
It is a 4,000 kilogram, 170. It's larger than that.
I saw that outside, and I was wondering what.
We've got a contender.
Just another mech pilot passing through.
This is good.
Wow.
Can it grab
Yeah.
my...
It's all the rage now.
Slightly less
Doesn't have enough
functional than
grab. Doesn't have enough
Prosthesis.
grab. You guys gonna steal my beer on me now?
You're
Yeah,
drinking
That's
You go and build one, and now
yeah.
everyone's building one.
He's gonna drink my whole beer.
Wow, okay.
Damn.
Yeah. This mech pilot's not as friendly as the ones that I was with recently.
Thanks, buddies. I'm gonna pop on out back to the.
Is that what they
Thanks,
use for
Kenny.
fuel,
That's
like
the
Bender
limit.
and Futurama?
There's
Thank
a
you
one
for
drink
that.
limit.
I
for mech
appreciate
pilot.
All right.
Come in, chug my beer.
So sorry.
Take off.
You were saying how big is Prosthesis?
Yeah, significantly larger than that. It's 4,000 kilos, 4 meters tall. For our American folks, that's in the order of 12 feet.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like 18 feet wide, like just over 5 meters.
wow.
And each leg weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, here. You can see it here. Well,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. You saw it there a second ago. It was
Yeah, there it is.
There she is.
It's just a bizarre experience to be in its presence. I spent 2 years inside the machine, never seeing it operate from outside.
Oh, wow.
So I still remember the first time I saw it from outside when one of the team members actually got in and piloted it.
wow.
Oh, so this is Chris getting into it. So for
Yeah.
the people at home, Chris has he took the training course to learn how to pilot this thing, and he was the first person.
He did.
Right? Outside of
Yep.
like the actual company?
Yeah, he was the only other people who have taken that training course are Cassie Haresh, who's like an Olympic level pro athlete,
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Canadian champion skeleton racer turned exoskeleton pioneer pilot.
Oh.
And we brought her in to help us sort of develop the pedagogy around the training.
wow.
So we ran her through the meat grinder, and she just like shone, and was very much a guinea pig for how we teach mech piloting.
Ah.
And then the other person that came was the hacksmith, James Hobson from Ontario, and he's been kind of rubbing his hands, waiting to get in the pilot seat for years. So we learned a little from Cassie, a little more from James, and by the time Chris came and strapped in, he was the first one to sign up for our official Alpha Mech pilot program. So
Yeah.
he's
Cool.
like the first in this pioneering cohort of pilots that are like
Nice.
and it was
coming.
awesome.
Yeah.
And you were running a crowdfunding campaign. Is the campaign still active?
It's still active. It's going until October 1st.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Big starter.
it's been
Check it out.
Yeah.
So
You
we'll
should
drop
check that out.
we'll drop a link to that in the description of this, and
Yeah.
we'll share
Just
some on Mudfire.
look for mech racing.
But anybody at
That'll get
home,
you there.
Yeah.
if you want your own opportunity to pilot Prosthesis, you can sign up to do that. It ain't cheap, but it's well worth the price
And
of
I
admission.
highly recommend it. It is one of the most unique and exciting and fun experiences I have ever had. It is also exhausting, but in the best possible way. Like you leave there every day and you are physically drained, but at the same time you're just I mean, I was drained and still wanted to keep going. If I didn't have to leave, I probably would have stayed there until it was dark, just in a machine, just like.
It is addictive. Warning:
Yeah.
mech piloting is addictive.
I mean, John listed off like the specs, but like you hear those numbers in isolation, and I don't think they're anywhere near as impactful as the actual machine is itself.
That makes
Like
sense.
when you're standing in front of it, it's so much bigger seeming than 4 meters and however many thousands of pounds. Like it seems like this behemoth, like its presence is just so epic.
What's the depth of it? How big is it front to
moves.
back?
It is 5.1 meters from nose to tail. It's got these huge bumper bars that can fold in and fold out. So
Call them the tusks.
yeah,
those
the tusks.
move.
Giant tusks.
Yeah, they deploy down for learners, and they deploy up when you're in race mode and get out of the way.
Oh, I was
when
wondering
you
because
get
I've
the
seen
fall
those
wheel.
down, and I was wondering. I figured they were just safeties for falling.
Yeah,
Like training wheels.
they are when you're training. And
Oh,
you can,
okay.
you can retract them up, and you can actually lift stuff with them too. Like we were lifting logs with them.
Oh, how much can you lift?
Oh, geez. I mean, we flipped a 2,000-pound car like it wasn't even there.
yeah.
Just
What?
Toy.
You didn't originally
Good footage of
have
that.
them to the same scale in the original designs, right?
Well, the design remained the same from beginning to construction to present day.
Really?
But the intended utility of them has changed significantly. When we were designing that, I was like, this thing is not falling over. Like this is way too expensive. When you guys are learning, I was kind of wagging my finger at the team, and I'm thinking like, we're going to learn as slowly as we need to not fall over. This is too dangerous. It's too scary. It's too expensive. We're going to put these bumper bars on with big shocks in the very rare and terrible event that we fall over, but we're not going to fall over. And then we proceeded to fall over for 2 years.
Oh.
Just like
Sounds
boom,
about right.
boom, boom, boom. There's like a wipeout montage in our Kickstarter video, and it's just like face plant, ass plant, face plant. So the bumper bars got to have serious workout. The beauty of it is that they work.
Oh,
And
good.
The pilot inside doesn't feel. I mean, you feel a bit of a jar, but they protect
Yeah.
the machine, they protect the pilots.
I would say it's a feeling of sort of an immediate nervousness that as soon as you catch yourself that first time, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
I'm okay.
No, I'm okay. I'm good now.
We actually developed a drill called fall training, where you stand up and you fall, you face plant.
Oh, intentionally.
And then you use the rebound, squat down, stand up, and fall down backwards. It's super fun. And then you get a rhythm going, and you just get used to falling. Next round, that's
time.
next level, yeah.
I was falling plenty on my own. I didn't need an exercise. I was just kind of doing that.
Sorry. Roz has a question.
Yes, from the chat.
Yeah.
First one is stupid, and the second one is actually pretty interesting and good. So first of all, people are talking about RoboCop, etc. I'm sure you hear a ton of jokes about comparing it to other types of machines. So maybe you could share one that you find particularly funny. But the second question that is really good is how is it powered?
Oh, yeah.
I'll address the funny one first, because a lot of people compare it to Theo Jansen's Strand Beasts. If you've ever seen those, they're like these gorgeous.
Literally saw a GIF of one today.
Yeah, they're like very intricate white plastic
PVC,
tubing, PVC tubing. That's like an 11-bar linkage that he developed through
Crazy.
amazing evolutionary programming technology. He's a brilliant engineer, and he built these brilliant, huge sculptures that blow in the wind down the beaches of Holland.
I've seen those, yeah.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
It's like the wind makes it walk. Like
Yeah.
the wind somehow the machine translates the wind energy into walking.
Well, it's kind of more subtle than that. If you read his philosophy, what he was trying to do is develop a more efficient replacement for the wheel. So the issue with the wheel rolling over sand is that you're compressing and deforming a line of sand all the way along, and that absorbs energy. So it's hard to roll something across the sand.
Sure.
feet are actually more efficient in sand because they make momentary contact and they only displace so much sand and absorb so much energy. So his whole linkage is based on replacing the wheel with a passive linkage that effectively rolls. So the wind is not necessarily driving the walking mechanism. It's pushing the machine as though it's on wheels, but the wheels are legs, but they're more efficient than wheels, so it rolls because it's basically an invention that supersedes the wheel.
Wow.
Isn't it similar to a tread in that?
Like a tank tread?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
a tank tread would be the same
in that a
idea,
tank tread has a constant line of deformation on the ground that it's traveling over. It would be
But
similarly
it's
inefficient.
kind of stepping, like the front of it as it rolls over is stepping and then staying longer and then picking back up.
But the total, if you were to sort of like analyze how many grains of sand you're displacing for a wheel or a tread or a foot, each grain of sand being displaced represents a certain amount of energy absorption and inefficiency that it goes with that. So stepping ultimately is more efficient while rolling or treading. Treading is more efficient than treads.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's a t-shirt.
That's good. That's well done. Okay, yeah.
What was the second?
Thank you, Theo Jansen.
Yeah.
How is it powered?
Oh, how's it powered?
Electricity. Yes, it is 100% electric. It has 350 kilograms of lithium iron phosphate batteries in its belly, which put out up to 2,700 amps. It's about a 200 horsepower electric hydraulic power plant.
I know something Chris was quite excited about when we were up there was the potential of like, you know, higher energy density battery technologies and like what that could do for the machine in terms of like power and range and top speed potentially. Like, it's just like, it's begging for a revolution in battery tech.
It doesn't even need a revolution. This battery is like circa 2013 when we were designing it and building it, and like that's when they were cheap and we had a super tight budget. If we were to rebuild this machine right now, it would have at least twice the power for the same amount of weight.
So Elon, if you're listening, send this man some batteries.
Dude, the Tesla Mech, sign me up.
I'm all about it.
Really?
Oh yeah,
That'd be amazing.
I mean, for me, it's the excitement of like the thought of that was more like, especially when you get into, you know, 6 years from now kind of thing, when potentially solid state batteries are a real thing, which weigh a lot less for the amount of output they give. So it was more just to think, you know, if you can reduce that weight, increase the power, increase the length of time it can operate. I mean, just thinking about how much easier it would be to maneuver, especially, I mean, and we'll get into this.
But isn't it
like
then
V2 or
totally
V3.
dependent on like user capability still?
Yeah.
Oh no, it is. It's just, but it's like, if you make the machine lighter, then it's like it moves easier. But when that's why I was just saying V2, V3 for me. We talked a lot about this while I was there, but it was that, you know, the next incarnation of this machine where it shrinks a little bit in size, but has the same amount of power, and so your ability to maneuver it when you're in the machine, you do feel it. You don't like, and you're strapped in, but it's not like it takes all the weight for you or all that. You still feel the weight of the machine, not all the weight of the machine.
I would hope not.
that'd
You
be
would
very
just be
slow.
sitting there.
Not even Trevor could move it.
No. So I wanted to ask, why racing? Like, what brought you to the point of because the obvious thing to me, if I had the technical know-how to make a mech suit of some kind, would be if I'm going to want some sort of funding to either go industrial or military.
Right.
So what made you envision a racing league?
Well, maybe the first way to answer that question would be that it didn't start as a business venture. I didn't sit down and say, I want to make a bunch of money. I like mech suits. What's the most lucrative market in mech suits? So that sort of like has immediately steered me in the direction of the whole motivation for the project was to create a new experience for human beings.
Cool.
Like that was the inception. It started as an art project. Like it was never intended to become a business. It started as a Burning Man art project inspired by my experiences mountain biking and snowboarding and doing martial arts and things like that, and like having those moments where you're racing down a mountain, you're in a little bit of danger, all of the skill and practice that you've developed over years of this sport have to be harnessed, and you have to focus and sort of bring everything to attention to like execute the jump or like make the curve or whatever. Some of those moments were like the most gratifying, rewarding experiences in my life, and they have no ceiling. You know, being skill-based and being practice-based, you can get as good as you want to get. And so that aspect of the human experience, I think, was really important to me, especially as things become more automated and virtual and kind of handed on a silver platter. I thought it was really important to build something that challenged you. I mean, this is not an old idea. This is just sport, right? Like the idea of like building an arbitrary challenge like golf and then spending your life mastering it. Like, these are not practical applications.
Yeah.
But they're extremely rewarding. They're really important to the human spirit. And sports industry is like $500 billion globally. So
That's true. No, the sport
if that's
is
not
a way
practical
to
enough
go.
for you, I don't know what is.
I think it's I guess part of it is, I mean, you're saying it's a racing mech, and I'm sure you probably hear this a lot, but it's when you watch footage of it moving, it's not exactly moving very fast.
No.
So I'm assuming you want to do something that's maybe a little bit more obstacle-based?
Absolutely. I mean, like, for starters, this is like the Wright brothers' first airplane. It's like, you're not crossing the Atlantic or like getting your packages overnight to anyone in this thing.
I was literally watching a video the other night of this historical society in England. It's like this charitable trust, and they have the most extensive collection of flying really old planes in the world. And there was a couple of planes that they were like flying at this little airstrip in England somewhere that were from 1910 and 1911. And like, they barely fly. They barely get into the air. You know, they were so slow and so rickety, but that was where the entire aviation industry began.
Yeah.
You know, and I certainly see, you know, parallels between, you know, sort of the state of the aviation industry at that time and, you know, where prosthesis is now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, it's infancy.
The biggest
still.
difference between that and mech technology is that, like, I know right now exactly what we need to do, and the technology is at our doorstep. All we need is the impetus from an audience to say, we want this, and the funding that comes through sponsorship and the idea of like building a league.
That's fair.
To create it. Like, give me $3 million, I'll have a head-to-head race of mechs that are going twice that fast in like 12 months.
So, as far as prosthesis itself goes, how, I mean, you said that this was the design stayed the same since like inception to creation?
Oh, no,
It did go through different?
It definitely went through iterations. Like, the concept stayed the same, but the first drawing I did in 2006, I wish I could find the notebook, but I have a picture of the drawing, and it was this kind of goofy gorilla. It was originally conceived as the simplest walking machine I could make. So it was like 4 basic legs with a kind of dangling body for a low center of gravity, and you'd sort of like lope along with this kind of swinging belly, and you'd sit in there going like this. And I was working with my brother's wife, of all people, who is an artist, because at that stage it was an art project. And I was applying for a Canada Council art grant. And she took me through the whole process, and it was actually through working with her. Shout out to Kate Armstrong. Thank you, my like advisor through so many twists and turns in this project. That I was describing why this was important to me and why this was cool and like useful to the human condition and all the rest of the kind of things that you put in an art grant application. And through that process, I discovered it was a sport. I was like, you know, it's just gonna be cool and fun and physically demanding and challenging and like awesome. She's like, that sounds like a sport. I'm like, okay, it's a sport. It's a sports mech. And then the next thing she said was, why a gorilla? I was like, I don't know. It's gonna look like one.
Because you previously made the Mondo spider, right?
Which was never supposed to be a spider either.
Oh, really?
that was just supposed to be a walking machine. And we're like, look, it's got 8 legs. They're in a circle. Let's call it a spider.
Oh, okay.
And that was fun. And it gave it another kind of character, and it had no ulterior motives. It wasn't a sport spider or anything. It was just
for fun.
Lovely thing, and it gave it a character. And that's actually why I got led down the garden path of calling prosthesis a gorilla, because I'm like, 8 legs, spider, 4 legs, gorilla.
I mean, the gorilla thing's funny, because even seeing prosthesis in action, my first thought of how to move really fast with that thing if I was going to be trying to like rip along a straight line is move like a gorilla. Like
Totally.
Plant 2 inside, then outside, and just like hop it.
We call that the gorilla gate.
Yeah.
And I've done it once.
Oh, okay.
Only
Have
once
a
have I
machine
attained.
that big, have 2 legs off the ground at one time would be freaking terrifying.
Well, you just need enough forward momentum, and it wouldn't be scary. You've got those safety bars.
Oh, scary is like years ago. Nothing's scary anymore. It's just about like
For
finding
you.
the zone.
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
Those of us who have only recently had our first experiences with it, it's a little bit scary.
But I
still.
will say,
wanna
you
try this
feel that. You get into it and you immediately go, oh, hey, like we talked about that, you know, because my first inclination was thinking of it more like a dog or a horse, you know, and I thought, you know.
So like this leg, that
yeah,
leg.
this leg, that leg, and that was how I thought about it. But only once I got into it, I realized that that doesn't work, and it would be the Gorilla Gate that would actually be the better way to do it.
Yeah.
And as much as you go, hey, like, I totally get that, and I could get there. It's going to take me. I will get there, but it's going to take a lot longer.
Momentum would be a big part of that, right?
I did exactly the same thing as you do, which is exactly the same thing that everyone does, except I'd been fantasizing about it for like 8 years. And I'm like, I'm going to turn both pumps up to full blast, and I'm going to get in and go. And I got in, it was just like, hang on a sec, let me and for 2 years I was trying to do that. And I was like, okay, never mind the Gorilla Gate. Let's like get this thing
try
standing.
walking.
And like one step at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even
No.
just seeing the thing stand up for the first time, or like making it stand up yourself for the first time, is one of the most overwhelming sensations of like raw power that I think I've ever experienced in my entire life. And the first time that you just like get up, you're just like, I am 14 feet in the air right now, strapped into like a 10,000 pound machine. Like, holy crap, this is cool.
Yeah. Well, and like, so my favorite moment out of the week I got to do the training, it was doing I think the Dragon Slam, is that what we call it? Or the with the two arms up and then slamming back down?
Yeah, the Dragon Slam.
The Dragon Slam. So this thing was...
A term we coined during that process. We used to, there's the Dragon Roll, which is like the kind of chill version. But the Dragon Slam.
Oh, that was
That's a good one.
That was a powerful moment. Yeah, well, you're using the inside legs to raise your body up, and then you lift the two outer limbs out of the ground, and then you just use the momentum going forward, and you slam back down and catch yourself, and it's just like it was just a very powerful moment that you're just suddenly like, yes, yes.
And that's another of the things I think about prosthesis that sort of surprised me the most, is like how robust it is. Like, certainly for me, one of the biggest concerns getting in the machine for the first time was just like, I can't fucking break John's thing. You know, like he spent so much of his life and money and energy and blood and sweat and tears building this thing. I just don't want to break it. Like I was terrified that I would somehow tip over and like it would just shatter into a million pieces.
Yeah.
Like, I'd find the one particular way, but it's like really tough. Like
it is.
Dropped it, tipped it over, smashed into things, smashed things with it, and it like, you know, a little
We broke a foot off of it.
there.
We did manage to tear a foot off. It does
tear a
have
foot off.
an Achilles heel, which is actually the Achilles
Joint.
hydraulic cylinder, which we've since upgraded, but now the ankles. So it's not perfect, but like, I felt the same way when I got in it. I was like, oh, I don't want to break it. And then like over the course of 2 or 3 years, I got more like less and less kind of patient with it. I'm like, okay, this is taking way too long to learn. I'm falling over. Just go. And I just started hammering. We ripped cylinders in half.
But that's part of it. That's it was like same with F1, same with any like certainly any mechanized sport that involves a machine that you're doing, you're gonna break it and then you're gonna rebuild it and you're gonna break it again. And that's part of that process of making it better and learning and faster and stronger. Find what the limits are,
find what the thing that breaks at that limit is, and then reinforce that one bit that broke, and then you go a little bit further.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's part of why we are at this juncture now where we're starting to train pilots, because we've broken enough stuff that it's starting to plateau.
Right. You've broken all the things that you can find to break, and now you need other people to break different things.
Roz, you had your hand up?
Yeah, some fun questions coming in, especially hearing about the suit itself. And because of that exoskeleton, is it hard to hurt yourself?
Is it hard to what, sir?
Hurt yourself, to get hurt inside of it, and you're falling over all the time.
Why don't you answer that? Because I'm biased.
Okay, so
safety third.
Actually, I would say it is hard to hurt yourself. Only in as much as like I fell over a significant amount. And
are you suspended in there?
You're in a almost like a mini exosuit, essentially. The best way I could think to describe it, that you kind of strap into, your feet clip in
like
using.
If you've ever done one of those like upside down roller coasters, where you're sort of like a standing roller coaster almost.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
It's actually way more than that. There's a full double wishbone vertical suspension and left and right
I didn't feel any like
So you're in the
personal
3 degree of
danger.
freedom.
No.
I only felt
Floating.
like concern for the machine. I
me,
wasn't at all concerned for
I'm
my
not gonna.
safety.
I'm not gonna say that there's no possible way.
Sure, it's a
Because of
sport
course
too,
there's
right?
a way, and I'm certain that if I was given enough time, I would find that way.
You certainly
I'm
would.
very good at that.
Always for sure.
But it was also one of those things where it's like I mean, I certainly on I think the 3rd day I had some of my hardest falls because that was the moment where I was willing to just kind of really just push it and try and
Translation: getting cocky.
yes. And,
But like, what's the kind of noises that you make in it from the beginning, which might be screams and squeals of delight?
Actually, I don't
maybe.
think that
but
was-
then at the end, towards the end, when you're like really into it,
Hoorah.
Yeah.
doing really well.
Yeah, for me,
Yelps of
for me
triumph.
personally, for me it was always a lot of laughter actually.
Yelps.
And it really did, to a degree, it feels like a carnival ride. Like you get in this thing and you're like, you fall and you're like, oh my God, this is great, let's do it again. And you get
Right, it's
back
like-
up and you're like,
It's like you're in a roller coaster and you're setting your own track as you go.
Yeah.
And you're in one of those big sumo suits, so you can't get
Yeah.
to it.
Oh,
Like, it's like-
yeah, exactly. So you felt, I think, like I said, it takes that first time. The first moment, that first fall you have, that's that first sort of scary moment, like, oh God. But then you realize actually you're pretty safe, and it would take a lot, and I know because I tried to actually like roll this thing or get it to do anything.
You tried to roll it?
I didn't like purposely try to roll, but I mean like at one point you get to a point where you're trying to make something happen that you're getting frustrated with, so you just suddenly are like, well then I'm just gonna, and then the machine goes like, oh, and you're going backwards now, but it catches you and you're kind of like, oh okay, and then really it's the puzzle of how do I get back up again, which was actually to me the greatest learning experience. That was how I learned how to operate this thing, was through the falls, because when I fell I understood. Now I know how this limb works better. I know how to get myself back up. And when I was able to do that, that was a progression I actually felt. That was the first day to the last day. If I fell on the last day, I was just like, oh, okay, back up, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And
That's important.
Versus the first day. And it teaches you a lot, but it also builds that confidence, maybe a little overconfidence. And then, and you keep pushing. But it is a lot of fun.
So
Ultimately, it's
how
just a
do
lot of
you
fun.
envision this racing league? Like, what would the potential guidelines be for what is a qualifying mech? Like, would they have to be bipedal or quadrupedal or like what?
That's a good
or would you allow like wheels? Would you allow something that rolls? Would you allow treads?
There are a whole bunch of ways to approach that. So I think ultimately, like, it's probably easier to look at sort of 10 or 20 years out to answer that question. I think in the intermediating phases, it will be quite restricted. Everyone will use a mech that's very similar to Prosthesis. Like, I think the first season or two will probably be like league issued mechs. You'll like lease a mech, and there'll be aspects of it that you have to design, like maybe the power plant or maybe the suspension system. But like fundamentally the control system, the number of degrees of freedom, and the basic architecture will be fixed.
Which is a very common model in racing. There's single
Yeah.
car racing leagues
sure.
where you all drive Honda Civics or
Totally.
Ford Escorts. Or
Yeah, I
whatever
mean, you
else.
could take that to the very extreme where everyone literally gets the same thing and you put your stickers on it. We might move a little away from that, but it's kind of a spectrum. You start at that end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum is like America's Cup or F1, where there's a bunch of rules and everyone just scrambles to break them. And that could get really wild, and it's kind of a fun puzzle to set those rules.
Yeah.
And like I've thought about that, like what defines a wheel?
Yeah.
So like any external component that rotates more than 360 degrees, banned.
Like if you had like a ball.
Yeah. So like as
Could
soon as you
literally
can't
be any
spin,
direction.
then
BB-8 kind of mech.
Yeah.
Personally, I would say a wheel is kind of counter to the idea. You know what I mean? Like the way it works, the way you would use it.
Well, and depending on the other question is what's the course?
Well, yeah, totally. So I
'Cause
mean,
wheels might be completely impractical if you need to climb over something.
exactly, and that's the litmus test. The course and the sport and the format of the sport have to be designed so that you can't just take like another existing vehicle or like an unaugmented human and win.
Yeah.
So that's kind of right.
win.
And what we actually want to do is we want to set up an event where you have like an excavator, a forklift, a trophy truck,
Oh.
a tank, like an American Ninja Warrior athlete, a dirt bike, F1 car, like
Whoa.
all of the types of machines that could beat Prosthesis at some aspect of the race, and then design a course so that only the mech can finish. That's a mech race course.
That proves the course.
It proves
That's
the
smart.
course, and it's the
like that.
versatility of the mech suit that makes it remarkable. It's not the fastest. It's not the best at lifting loads.
No.
It's not the best at like many of these specialized things, but it's the only thing that can do them all.
Yeah.
So that's how we're going to develop the sport.
Some
certainly-
types of terrain or gradients or whatever, where like other
Yeah.
of those vehicles are totally going to fall down, but prosthesis is going to be able to scramble up or over.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you had the similar experience when you were in the machine, but for me, it was like, you get in, you feel how this thing moves, and then my first immediate thought was, oh, I want to try this thing. Or I would want to, or if I was in a race, I'd love to, if I came across a rock and I got this leg up on the rock, and then I was, how would I maneuver around this thing? And your brain starts spinning, but all of that ties into how that particular machine works.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't thinking, how could I get wheels on this to go faster? And in fact, when you're in it, speed was not even it didn't even come to mind. Like it wasn't it was more about maneuverability. How do I
get that. It's the moniker of Racing Mech.
No,
that makes me
100%.
think, like, what kind of a race is it? Like, would it be the same device being used and you're doing time trials, or would there be 8 different mechs simultaneously trying to complete the same course?
That would be awesome.
So,
I personally, I think it's somewhere between like trophy truck racing and Ninja Warrior. I think it's some synthesis of those two kind of ideas.
Obstacle course and whoever has the best time?
Yes.
I think that's probably the easiest to
I think it'll evolve too. Like down the road, there will be different classes. Like we've sort of envisioned the Panther class mech, which would be a more conventional quadrupedal architecture with the pilot like leg face down and articulation in the body, and like maybe they're way faster, but they're not as powerful.
Right.
And then you've got like maybe open class. And then you just throw the rules out. Maybe you could put wheels on the ends of the legs.
That'd be pretty
but
cool.
you can't enter in a trophy truck because you have to climb over something that's like 4 feet tall, and you have to flip a car at some point. So like, sure, bring your trophy truck, buddy. Bring your tank, whatever. Like, it's gonna get stuck at this particular thing. And then you have courses where there's like a crazy obstacle, but then there's like you can go and do a detour around it. So you'll have different mechs or different pilots that are maybe better at going fast or better at doing technical stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, I'm really good at scaling walls, so I'm going to take this shortcut over this obstacle, and everyone else has to go the long way around here. And so there become like strategy comes into it, and rivalry is like,
really
oh, we've got
Yeah.
like, Susan's really great at climbing over stuff, but like Jed is like really great at pushing stuff over, so maybe Jed will push it over before she can climb over it. And like it becomes this whole kind of like
See
melee.
in different racing series the world over that there's like some teams that have specific advantages on some courses. So like there's say
Right.
an F1 team that always happens to win this one race and this one course because the straights are shorter or the corners are sharper, and that just favors the way that they've set up their car.
Right.
So like exactly what you're saying.
Or,
it could be,
or they've developed like wicked braking technology
Yeah.
the others don't have. And so as it develops, as the league evolves, you'll have the freedom to move into a more of a rules-based situation, because it will be less of a science experiment. You don't want to open it up to a rules-based model right out of the bat, because the barrier to entry would be too large.
Yeah.
People would have to start from scratch, develop a mech according to the rules, and you have all these wacky mechs, and they'd be falling over and but we build a mech, Gen 3 probably. We're at Gen 1 now, so Gen 3 is going to be kick-ass. You issue those to each team, and it puts the focus on the pilot skill.
So Gen 3 leads to another question I was going to ask you, which is, as far as this version of Prosthesis goes, what squeaky chair? I swear. What in this iteration of a racing mech would you refine or change leading into a V2?
So the next revision we want to make would be about 2/3 the size, half the weight, and probably twice the power.
Oh, okay.
Your runtime would go down, but the just straight power output, it would be able to jump.
Oh.
Next version. I've actually jumped Prosthesis about 1 inch. I have a picture of all 4 feet off the ground. But the next revision, because it was big, it was strong. As Ryan was saying, we thrashed the Jesus out of it, and it's hasn't broken that much. And there's lots of room to wrench stuff in there as we kind of figure out how it fits together. But Gen 2, you package it down tighter, you bring all so many elements of it can just be snugged down, and you can optimize, and you can sort of do some engineering on how to shave weight off here and there. Way more high performance, probably take some pretty extreme design risks. Stuff would break, stuff would fail, and then we'd take the lessons from pushing that side of the envelope. Now we're at the safe side, then we go to the crazy side. And then Gen 3 is the sweet spot as you sort of home in on the optimal architecture. In the same way that F1 cars have sort of evolutionarily homed in on a very similar form factor. Like they tried 2 front wheels and they tried all sorts of wacky stuff. But they've sort of, the fundamental first principles of engineering and physics have funneled the design of a 4-wheeled open-wheel race car into a pretty small envelope form factor, and they're dialing it in. So that will happen with mechs.
Yeah.
Right now we've got like the 6-wheeled F1 car of mech racing that's just like, try this.
So something I meant to ask you at the very beginning, what is your background in this? How did you come to making something like a giant mech suit?
I'm a mechanical engineer. I mean, my background's like Lego, plasticine. I made dinosaurs out of plastic.
If we're going like way back?
Electric RC cars. That's kind of where I cut my teeth. Like dune buggies, dinosaurs, that was the kind of inspiration that led to this kind of thing. And then I got an engineering degree from UBC.
Oh, nice.
And that gave me the tools. And then I started going to Burning Man, and that gave me the community and the crazy madcap friends. I actually co-founded a charity called the Eat Art Foundation. Stands for Energy Awareness Through Art. And it was like formed around this giant mechanical spider that we built. And we thought like, well, this is a neat project, and it brought together all of these amazingly talented people. Like, let's form a community around this so that we can foster the creation of more wild machines and demonstration projects. And we'd bring them to like schools and science fairs and get kids stoked about.
Is Eat Art still a thing?
Oh, yeah.
It is totally a thing.
Okay, cool. Because
Some very cool other projects through Eat Art. There's Daisy, the like 20-foot tall 3-wheeled solar-powered electric tricycle.
Which is crazy, by the way.
Titanoboa, the 50-foot long rideable electric
Another
snake.
Guinness World Record holder.
Yeah, Titanoboa is really cool. Like,
There's 2
Titanoboa-
Guinness World
As you
Records
do.
that came out of the Eat Art Foundation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right in Vancouver.
Titanoboa
You guys
definitely
also
deserves a bit
throw
more press than it's gotten.
some of the best parties.
Yeah.
Because
wow.
one of my favorite New Year's parties in my adult life was an Eat Art party.
Oh, right on.
Ever.
Yeah, yeah.
So we may have met previously.
Probably.
But
Nice.
yeah, that was good times. So what brought you to something like Exo-Bionics versus Robotics? And for people who don't know, what's the big difference?
Yeah, no, that's a good question because like I love robots. Robots are cool and sexy, and the sort of engineering challenges that come with robotics are super engaging and super important and super valuable. There's a lot of things that I'm so grateful that robots are doing.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for self-driving cars, but I also drive a standard, and I love operating my motor vehicle. It's very engaging, and as long as I'm dead cold sober and I'm well slept and I'm not going over the speed limit, it's very fun to operate a nice sporty vehicle.
Yeah.
But this project fundamentally came from the human experience side of things. So, I mean, I would say like a robot is anything that has some kind of situational or environmental awareness, dynamic awareness. It can kind of need sensors of some sort to like track its environment, and then it needs to make decisions and change its actions accordingly. So whether that's your Roomba or like Asimo bringing you a beer from the fridge, those are all robots, and the point of robots is autonomy.
Yeah.
Right.
This machine is very intentionally non-autonomous.
Yeah, it's incorporation
Yeah.
of human
I mean,
experience.
its original name was Prosthesis, the anti-robot.
Totally.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was like philosophically one of the big things that sort of originally drew me to John and Prosthesis was just this like really interesting notion that like automation and robotics are eating so much of the world, and that there's this sort of reactionary movement against that because robots don't necessarily fulfill the human desire for sort of like human expression and control and movement in a way that
Challenge.
like a device like
So
Prosthesis does.
why not focus your knowledge and skill on developing something like human augmentation as opposed to, so I mean, it's called prosthesis,
Yeah.
but technically it's not actually a prosthetic because it's not a replacement of a limb.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you for pointing that
extension.
out, Trevor.
Jeez, Jeff.
Sorry, I'm a pedantic son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Tony Hodgson, if you can send into the comments, Tony Hodgson was my biomechanics prof at UBC, and he pointed out, well after I'd named it prosthesis, that it's not actually a prosthetic, it's a replacement, and there's actually another totally obscure term in engineering and in like biomedical engineering that is sort of an academic, highly technical term. It's some other etic.
Oh.
Not prosthetic. So fact checker, listening audience, please.
Let us know.
Something
Maybe
that's
we'll
like
name the
a-
next
What are we
one.
talking
It's an
about here?
extension,
Yeah.
like a.
It's an extension, it's an
extension.
augmentation. So yeah, I mean, prosthetic was like, I was hoping no one would notice
Well,
that.
actually, you know the funny. but there is a funny thing to that, because I get it, and it is not technically a prosthetic. However, even given how prosthetics are moving forward and the technology they're looking to, they're trying to augment a prosthetic to work off of the nerve endings of the body in a
Right.
similar fashion. I'm thinking, I'm moving, and that limb moves the way I want it to. So in a similar way, this operates that way. I get that it's not actually a prosthetic, but when you're in it, I move, my thought, my movement makes the machine
Yeah, it's an
move.
extension.
It's an extension.
For sure.
So
But, like,
I
why-
can see how you
It is
connect
a
the two.
replacement for the imaginary mech around my body that I've been missing my whole life.
There you
There
go.
you go.
I dig that.
Phantom mech
that.
syndrome.
Yeah,
Behind that, like,
Phantom
crazy.
mech syndrome. Careful, that will be a thing.
Well, see, that's the funny thing.
I think you were experiencing that the day after you woke up. You're like,
how do I do this? I need more.
But like prosthetic, I mean, that's the thing, is prosthetics right now are basically last resorts. They're for something that is lost, because we consider the human body complete unless it's missing something that's functional.
Right.
So, whereas like augmentation and going towards like cybernetics and the incorporation of like creating cyborgs, where you might be able to, like with Tesla's or Elon Musk's Neuralink, being able to augment the human body and improve it.
Yeah.
And I know he's like focusing on being able to cure certain things with the Neuralink and correct any physical ailment through this.
Yeah.
But even just to further ourselves, like did you consider taking your know-how and making like a robotic arm that you could take? I could just cut this off. It's perfectly good, but I'm gonna get rid of it because now I've got this crazy ass robot arm.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was actually my previous career, not robotic arms, but I was a biomedical engineer designing brain implants, endovascular prostheses,
Oh wow.
to cure aneurysms. So I spent like 12 years designing microscopic vascular implants that were made out of like tiny pieces of nickel titanium alloy cut with a superfine laser with no moving parts that you would
Whoa.
squeeze down and put in your leg and deploy in your brain. And then by night, I would go home and work on my giant mech suit with like thousands of parts and a giant power plant.
Difference in scale.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so a question I have is, so something we talked about a lot, and you kind of touched on this a little earlier, was just how mechs are sort of portrayed. That's a military is probably the most common way that you would think of to which a mech. But that was something that you are very adamant on making sure that this is not portrayed in that way, and totally understandable.
Yeah.
It's a racing mech. You want to be pushing the idea of using this in that fashion. But then, so like, what's like your favorite examples of a mech? Something else that you've seen out there that does represent it in a way that people might visually
Are you talking
understand.
in media, like film, TV, or video
Yeah.
games, or whatever?
Yeah.
Like sci-fi depictions of mechs. Well, I mean, like the iconic classic mech that's probably the most people in the world have seen is like the Aliens loader.
The loader,
Right,
yes.
and-
We had a
and
brief
they-
cameo
loader-
of earlier
There,
tonight.
in fact, right there. There it is.
We had
That's
it
it.
loaded.
That
There you go.
scene has burned in my childhood brain.
Yeah,
and
me
has
too.
Certainly, like come out, through certain processes at Burning Man.
Oh, yeah.
That inspirational experiences. So, like, again, the funny thing about the Aliens loader is that it's a tool made for a practical application, which is of
Industrial.
which is
Yep.
of like dubious value. I don't know how that really compares to a forklift. Do you need to have like bipedal balance? It's the
Yeah.
ground is pretty
how does
smooth.
that-
to
You know,
do.
I never thought of that. It is dubious.
Yeah, it's like, what do you
to make
need that
anyone's
for?
life easier. You know?
No, exactly. But then they're using it for violence.
Yeah,
Of course.
That's
You know,
true.
for a good cause
That's
to
true.
save the kids and all the rest of it. But still, it ends up being a weapon. It becomes weaponized.
Yeah.
So I'm not into that. And the other one is the District 9 mech.
Right.
District 9 mech
There
is
was a
like,
mech in District 9.
Yeah.
Oh,
there
it's
it is.
like
Yeah.
one of the like least celebrated mechs I think out there, under-celebrated mechs I would say.
Sure. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It has it's so dynamic. It's the sportiest mech out there. You know, you got your Pacific Rim lumbering giants. You got the aliens loader, which is kind of like swooping around. This thing jumps and leaps and runs, and it's just beautifully depicted.
I can't think of a single representation of a mech or a mech-like device in media where it was just a thing that people used to have fun.
No.
You know?
Or like a method of transportation.
I can think of some that are like methods of transportation or
Really?
more sort of like industrial or commercial or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a Japanese anime series called Pat Labor, and they had like, you know, police cop or like traffic cop mechs and like delivery mechs, and like it was like a mech
The
world.
Expanse has like the maintenance mech.
Yeah,
that's
but like
the
I've never
mag-
seen one where it's
actually,
just
yeah,
like
that's
somebody's
true, yeah.
like, I'm gonna go out, you know, on a Saturday afternoon and have some fun in my mech.
Yeah,
you know, like
you'll
I've
mech
never
it.
seen anybody
I mean,
having
dude,
fun.
I would do that.
That's
I
2030.
would do that.
The Rec Mech coming soon.
I
You get your Tesla Cybertruck, you load up your 2 little Rec Mechs on the flat deck.
I want a
and you rip
Cybertruck
out to
so
the
bad.
desert and you go meching.
Right?
Mech life.
People do like ATV, and they do
I think
ski
there's
doing,
something
they
there.
do jet skiing. Why not wreck meching?
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
The whole experience of like running through the woods in your personal, you know,
I bet
sized
someone
wreck
said that
mech.
about the first quad when someone
Yeah.
was like, hey, I got this tiny truck that's not big enough to carry very much. You can kind of put 1, maybe 2 people on it. It's like not street legal.
Doesn't go very fast.
What the hell are you going to do with that, buddy?
Yeah.
Rip
Oh,
around.
build like a multi-million-dollar
Rip
industry around it
around.
and make thousands of people happy. Like, yes, okay.
I mean, I fully get what I was asking earlier about why not go for a military or industrial thing. It's just that even on like on spec, you could probably guarantee like funding of some kind. If you have the skill set to say, look, I know how to do this stuff,
Right.
and here's the thing I want to make, they'd be like, wow, the potential is amazing. Here's the funding.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like I want to make a thing and I want to run fast. Like they'd be like, well, get out of here. So
Until
and
somebody
I
sees it.
understand military not wanting to do that because I don't want to design something that's responsible for killing a bunch of people.
Yeah.
That would feel awful. That's why Iron Man stopped. That's a weird thing to go with, but
you
yeah,
go.
that's where I went.
It's a little ironic spending 12 years like designing life-saving medical devices, and then like the next phase of your career is like building murderous weapons.
Yes,
Nuts.
that would be a horrible jump. So I get
Or,
that.
I'm just throwing it out there, it could be for superpower related reasons. And then you could be a superhero, like my favorite mech that Penny Parker works with, Spider.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
fair.
Superhero
good call.
applications are acceptable.
Yes.
This is John's other sideways plan is to become Mech Man.
Mech Man.
You know, like don himself in some like, you know, single piece unitard thing.
Definitely full body
Jump in
spandex.
prosthesis.
involved.
Right? 100%.
Stomp around
100%.
downtown, stopping crimes or whatever. Imagine you like met a
It's like
mugger in
rescuing
a,
cats from
I mean,
trees.
yeah, well, you meet a mugger in a dark alley trying to rip off some old lady's purse, and you're strapped into prosthesis. And
Honestly,
hey,
I'll
give
be-
that back.
If some
It's gonna stop
dude's
people.
robbing somebody and prosthesis just rises up behind you, you're dropping the
Yeah,
purse
you're
and you're
done.
backing the fuck
Sorry,
away.
sorry,
true.
man.
All right? There's
That
no way
is
you're not looking at them and
intimidating.
being
As soon as the
okay.
mech suit runs faster than a human, that's a game-changing situation.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. So we were down at South by, was that last year? No, it was 2 years ago.
2
now.
years ago.
Dear God. And Lockheed Martin had a thing there where they had like,
The Hulk.
no, this was just
Just the legs.
the legs.
Yeah, that's the human something something something, HULC.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
lower
That's why it's called the Hulk.
appendage. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's got like titanium thigh bones and little hydraulic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and they also
Yeah.
said that they had some sort of like lifting device that could couple with it, and then if you put an
Honda built one recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
So
the
what-
the big one right now is Raytheon just got $40 million to
Yeah.
go into production with their, it's like the Patriot or the Warrior or the Defender or like some sort of grand name that they've been funded heavily by the U.S. Department of
Well,
Defense.
that's what
But-
I've heard sort of is the end game for Boston Dynamics Spot robot is to be sort of like a infantry support vehicle, like the Boston Dynamics
Yeah.
Spot vehicle. They're basically going to take their four-legged dog robot and, you know, put a bunch of ammo cans and first aid supplies, and your, you know, soldier guys going into wherever are going to have this little robot trailing along behind them,
Yeah.
and it's got all their extra gear on it, you know.
I fully get the idea of putting robots in the battle. I mean, it eliminates human risk to do what you're trying to do, but it's still
That's it,
killing people.
Trevor. Like that's exactly it. Is that I mean, I'm no military technology expert or military expert in any sense, but from what I've observed, looking out at the world, there is a trend towards applying technology to get humans out of the battlefield as much
Yeah.
as possible. Basically, like industrialization of warfare, which has its own creepy implications.
Oh, terrifying. Skynet.
But yeah,
This
but
is-
like the whole point of prosthesis is that it's a physical challenge, and in fact, GE built what they called the GE walking truck in the 60s, which was a logistics support vehicle, big quadrupedal thing. They never got it off the umbilical cord because all their lab development, they didn't have computer augmentation, gyros, or even sophisticated control systems, and they canned the project because it was too challenging for the operator to learn how to operate it.
See,
And so the reason that failed as a military application is the reason prosthesis exists.
Right.
fair enough.
Because it's a challenge.
Well, and to
I
me,
appreciate that.
Well, but it brings out to like there's a really interesting aspect to this. So sure, robots remove the human aspect, but removing the human aspect removes the creativity. So the creative thought.
Sure.
So what I mean by that is we innately have creative thought processing. We problem solve in very creative ways when it comes to things when we have to overcome something that not necessarily a robot, at least currently, will apply to something.
Yeah.
So like for me, especially when it comes to racing and things like that, I look at it and go, like that to me that's the excitement. Like sure, there's this big machine and I get to operate it, but I also have to think. I have to apply my creativity to my problem solving and what I'm going to do. And even in military aspects, I would look at that and say, a robot, there currently at least is a breaking point where a robot hits a certain problem and goes, okay, well, what do you want me to do? I don't.
Sure, unless you're remotely piloting it.
And that
then
kind
it's fails,
Then it's
send
not
another
a
one
robot
in.
though. It is, but it's not like
telepresence.
It's a telepresence.
And that kind of touches on something that John and I have talked about in the past, is like this idea that you look at Formula One or Formula E right now. They could take the pilots out of those cars, and those cars could go twice as fast around those tracks. If the human aspect wasn't involved, people only can handle so many G-forces, and they, get fatigued and they make bad choices, and whatever else. Like you could have, remotely piloted or fully autonomous cars ripping around a racetrack at 500 kilometers an hour. Would anyone watch that though?
No, it's also that
I wouldn't watch
it's
that.
the same thing in writing. Is you're taking a character and that becomes the connection for the audience.
Yeah.
Like the connection for the audience in any of this kind of sport is projection, and you're thinking, I could do that. Like I'm putting myself in that person's shoes, and you're empathizing with them. So I get that. I totally get.
Right.
The reason I ask about the leg like on human tight enhancements is, have you considered doing something that was like way smaller scale than prosthesis, that was essentially an exosuit that just amplifies human performance?
No.
Okay.
Simply put,
why not?
The reason that's such a immediate response is that the technology we developed, that we have patents pending around the world on, the very fundamental sort of core essence of the technology is that it enables a human-sized operator through an exoskeletal interface to control a vehicle that's substantially larger than them. And we couldn't really, at some point it would become impractical and kind of pointless to apply our technology to a human scale machine. Also, there's tons of people doing that with tons of money and tons of experience.
That's a great reason not to do it.
I don't think you can adequately express the feeling of just power that you get from actually being in the machine. And sure, if you've got some, svelte little robot suit that lets you run super fast, that would probably be super fun too, but you wouldn't get that just overwhelming rush of raw power when you stand up in the thing for the first time and there's 15 feet of metal wrapped around you, and you can see the pistons and the hydraulics and everything.
That depends on how fully fleshed out it is. If you could also run really fast, jump really high, and then punch through a wall.
Sure, it'd be a whole other
but
thing.
I don't think it's as exciting to watch. If I'm thinking about it as a sport, I don't think watching somebody in a I could see that. I mean,
you wouldn't watch the Olympics if there was someone on there.
No, that's what I'm saying. I could see in the
guys that are all suited up and running at 100 kilometers an hour.
I'll be honest with you.
100%.
Well, no, but it would be fascinating once. But then you're okay, but the Olympics is about pushing the human experience. It's not about pushing a machine. I mean,
why is Formula One more popular than distance running?
But the very argument with that is, say we took prosthesis itself and had 30 trained pilots all try the same obstacle course, then the human performance element isn't dictated by the technology. it's still the human.
Yeah.
It's
No,
who's
you're-
the best operator.
Yeah.
You're right, but I mean, and again, I think there is something to grandeur, which is something that
Oh, God,
humans
no.
are.
Oh no, I agree.
all
I
about.
think it's awesome. I want to pilot the thing.
Yeah.
I'm just asking questions.
But I just think that there's like a, I don't know. I think that if you took the Olympics and put an exoskeleton on everybody, certainly in the Summer Olympics, where that would I think apply the most, you know, in shot put or in like you
High
know where
jump,
somebody's
whatever.
like, okay, who can throw to the next continent? Like it doesn't, you know, like at that point. It removes a certain element there that isn't interesting. Whereas the thing with something like prosthesis for me that was so intriguing was that whilst I get that it's a similar idea that's just escalated into this big machine, but now it's not just a mobile human doing this thing. It's me trying to push a machine that I am connected to its kind of outer limits. How can I take this big thing and make it do what I want it to do? Which I think is the same thing you were saying, why F1 is so interesting. If you remove the driver, it's a lot less interesting. And they've actually tried that with robot cars, and they can move super fast, but
It's not very fun.
it's just kind of
Yeah.
boring.
Watch that.
Yeah, there's no connection to it.
Yeah.
Arguing for robot cars.
And there's something that happens when you scale up. As high performance as the like anthropomorphic suits could get, there's something that happens when you scale up like 2 or 3,
Oh, yeah.
5 times human size. It just opens up a whole new kind of
Yeah.
level of capacity.
Oh.
Flipping cars and
And that's what I think would be really cool because, like you said, there's a bunch of people who are developing that technology.
Yeah.
Is continuing down the road you're on and looking down the road and having this crazy racing league. If part of your course when you are competing is not just speed or climbing or what have you, but also lifting and
Totally.
maybe tearing something down. Because then, say there is
Smashing
someone with
stunts.
a anthropomorphic, as you said, suit that's like running around. How much effort does it take them? Can
Yeah.
they even hang with something that big?
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
That's super intriguing.
Roz?
Roz, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if chat can get a few more questions for Jonathan in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so curious. They would love to know more about your goals and what you would love to see your mech be able to do in the future.
well, this particular prototype, good old prosthesis. Oh, she's been around the block, that one. But there's still
She
a
looks great
lot
for
of
her age.
potential, a lot of potential that we can wring out of that particular prototype. We see that machine itself, that particular piece of metal, getting faster, and I mean, right now it's this sort of process of like increasing pilot skill and then improving machine technology, increasing pilot skill. And so now the machine's plateaued a little bit, pilot skill's catching up, and I've took Gorilla Step for the first time, and I'm soon going to be asking for like more power and, you know, upgrades to the control of the machine, which we have coming.
Right.
So that thing's still got a bit we can wring out of it, but, you know, down the road, call it sort of like 5 or 10 years, 6, 7, 8 iterations down. I mean, we'll be getting into the double-digit speeds, jumping for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I think that, like, fundamentally, from a sort of engineering first principles perspective, we could get pretty close to what the District 9 mech could do.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
And that
it's going
thing's-
to be able to do that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
for sure.
we have the power density in batteries, especially 10 years from now.
Yeah.
We have the power density of the actuators. We have advanced materials. Like, can you imagine taking like F1 technology and applying it to the 4,000 kilogram prosthesis? It'd be like 600 kilograms. The thing would fly.
Carbon fiber,
Yeah.
everything, titanium, everything.
Yeah.
And I think
Oh, yeah.
related to the idea that the mech could do some of those things like jumping, it's faster, lighter. Have you guys ever thought about it playing other sports? Like
Totally.
Mech soccer.
Yes.
Mech soccer would
Matt, you could
Wow.
basically take any motorsport, any gymnastic sport, any Olympic sport, any team sport, and create the mech version.
Totally.
Like, yeah, mech soccer on like these massive fields with a giant ball, like
Okay, I think
anything
we have
you
to try
want.
to figure out a way to do that
Yeah,
one day.
they do it with
One
cars
day.
already.
So,
Yeah.
There's the balls
Yeah,
exist.
Top
Right,
Gear
like,
did that.
I mean,
Have
bike
you,
polo.
Yeah.
Would you think of adding any kind of like gripping, like some sort of limbs that could actually get a hold of something and climb?
Oh yeah, that'd be wild. I mean, the technology we have could absolutely be turned into a completely anthropomorphic human, like 32 degrees of freedom or whatever we have. Like,
Yeah.
technologically, we could do that. It's just a matter of like will and funding. But the machine right now has these bumper bars which you operate with joysticks.
Yeah.
So we've started playing with that now because the controls used to be on the dashboard and it was like you'd set them and forget them, but now they're on the joysticks. And we started playing around the other day. We were in the woods. There's a huge like pile of logs, and I like came into it and like lowered the bumper bars and then like lifted them back up. Yeah. So we're getting into that like secondary manipulator.
Opposable
kind of
thumbs.
Opposable
go.
thumbs. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
just for the folks at home, plug your website, plug the Kickstarter. You're on Kickstarter right now?
Kickstarter. Yeah.
Kickstarter.com/what?
If you go to the Kickstarter site and you plug in Mech Racing or
Mech
Racing Mech,
Racing, okay.
you will find us.
Okay.
The campaign's going gangbusters and Kickstarter.
What's the best website to find you guys and learn more about?
If you want to sort of track what we're doing, you can find us at racing_mech on Instagram and Twitter. If you go to anti-robot.com, it'll send you to a website that'll give you a contact form. You can just email me directly.
And we'll add all that stuff to the description on
it'll
this.
be there.
And our
Video
YouTube
as
channel
well.
is Furrion Exo-Bionics.
Nice.
2 R's.
2 R's.
2 R's.
R-R-I.
Oh yeah, you got to check this thing out.
There's some
Follow-
fantastic. Check out the Hacksmiths video on it. We've got a video
We've got a
dropping
video coming very soon.
very soon about
Of
Chris's
Ryan and I, who
experiences.
went on an adventure together to try this thing out, which we had a lot of fun with. Oh yeah,
things
so
I've
that's
done
coming really shortly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for joining us. Thank you very much. Very cool. You have the honor of being our first guest from outside of the company.
Yeah.
And thank you guys. Thank you, Roz.
Thank you,
you,
Roz.
Alex. Thank you, Owen and Misha. Thank you, everybody.
Midnight
Thank you,
Sleep.
Chris
Thank you.
O'Brien.
Yeah.
So
Friday.
until then, stay tuned. We do have that our own footage of Chris using the vlog, or using the mech.
Using a vlog to show
prosthesis,
you the mech.
Piloting, getting into the thing. So stay tuned. Bunch of more. I can't talk anymore. Apparently,
Bunch
I'm
of really
done.
fun stuff.
So until next week, stay filthy.